Have you ever noticed that the moment you start being truly yourself, something shifts? Not in you, but in them. The people around you start acting differently. There's tension. They might not say it, but their silence gets louder. Their laughter feels thinner. Their advice begins to sting. Because when you begin to live honestly, when you strip away the layers you wore just to belong, you force others to look at themselves. And nothing terrifies the average person more than a mirror that doesn't lie. This video isn't comfortable. It's not soft. It's not made to flatter you. It's a confrontation, a psychological X-ray of what happens when someone dares to live without masks. And that someone might be you. You don't need enemies to be attacked. You just need to stop pretending. Because the moment you do, you begin to disturb the unconscious contract most people live by. Let me lie to myself, and I'll let you do the same. Break that contract, and you become a threat. Why? Because your authenticity reminds people of their own denial. When you choose not to gossip, not to fake enthusiasm, not to laugh just to fit in, you begin to reveal who's been wearing a mask all along. And most people don't want to be seen. So they'll call you difficult, too intense, too cold, too different. But the truth, you've simply stopped living on default settings. You've unplugged from the shared illusion that keeps people safe. And safety, when it's built on conformity, doesn't like to be challenged. Most relationships are not based on truth. They're based on mutual illusions, unspoken agreements to keep things light, predictable, non-threatening. But when you become real, when you speak from your center, those illusions start to fracture, and people recoil. Not because you did something wrong, but because you stopped pretending everything was fine. Friedrich Nietzsche once said, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." But what he didn't say directly was that most people never find their why, because they've never dared to face the how. See, Nietzsche didn't fear death. He feared a life half-lived, a life built around appeasement, where your potential rots in exchange for acceptance. He saw how society conditions people to outsource meaning. God, government, gurus. Everyone has a ready-made truth to offer you, because a mind that creates its own is uncontrollable, and that's the root of fear. You're not feared because you're arrogant. You're feared because you're free. A free thinker, a free creator, a self-made soul. And that's terrifying to those who've built their identity on scaffolding.
Not because you harm, but because you awaken. And people are far more afraid of awakening than they are of oppression. There comes a moment in your personal evolution when something inside you dies. But it's not your spirit, it's your dependence. Dependence on approval, dependence on structure, dependence on being told who you are. Nietzsche called this moment the death of God, not as a theological claim, but as the psychological breakdown of borrowed beliefs. It's the collapse of everything you leaned on to feel safe. And it's horrifying, because suddenly you are naked before existence. No guiding hand, no cosmic manual, just you, and the weight of freedom. No one to blame, no one to obey, no one to save you. But this is the initiation. This is the threshold between imitation and individuation, between echoing what you've heard and forging what has never been spoken. Nietzsche wanted you to feel this loss, because in that silence, a deeper voice emerges, your voice. And with it comes the beginning of responsibility.
radical, existential responsibility. You stop asking for signs. You stop waiting for permission. You look into the abyss, and instead of fear, you feel fire. Because if there is no meaning given to you, you have the terrifying power to create your own. We talk about rebellion as if it's something external, revolt against systems, governments, ideologies. But the most important rebellion is internal. It's a rebellion against your former self. The part of you that wanted to be liked, the part that watered itself down in every conversation, the part that smiled while slowly dying inside. You must destroy that part, not with violence, but with truth. Every time you choose integrity over likability, every time you speak honestly instead of hiding behind silence, you're at war with the inner coward that society trained you to become. This isn't ego, this is rebirth. And like any birth, it's painful. You will outgrow people. You will be mocked, misinterpreted, ignored. But what emerges from this process is the beginning of something divine. Not in a religious sense, but in a spiritual one. A soul unchained. And once you've tasted that freedom, you can never go back to who you were. You start to see through manipulation. You start to feel when a conversation is hollow. You sense when someone's approval is a leash. You lose your appetite for performance, and your old identity begins to rot. But from that decay, something new is born, a sovereign mind. There's a silence that comes when you begin to evolve. It's not peaceful at first. It's the silence of disconnection. You look around and realize no one really sees you. Because they were only seeing the version of you that fit into their world, not the real you. And now that version is gone. Welcome to solitude. Nietzsche didn't glorify it, he endured it. But he also saw its necessity, because only in solitude can the false identities fall away. Only in solitude can you hear your own thoughts clearly, without the static of expectation. You will grieve, not just for people, but for the old self that once found comfort in the crowd. But stay there, in that emptiness, because if you do, something will emerge. Not noise, not distraction, but depth. The kind of depth that cannot be shaken by trends, gossip, or fear. True solitude is not loneliness, it's clarity, it's independence, it's sacred ground. And if you can withstand it, you will find power in places others run from. You will learn to stand alone, and that is the first step to becoming unshakable. In a deadened world, the most unforgivable thing you can do is be fully alive, to feel deeply, to think critically, to walk boldly without asking for permission. This kind of existence is revolutionary because it breaks the quiet rule everyone silently agreed to. Don't outshine the cage. But you will, not because you want to dominate, but because you refuse to dim. Your existence becomes a rebellion. Your thoughts become dangerous, not because they harm others, but because they awaken them. And people do not want to awaken. They want comfort, repetition, sedation. But you've tasted something real. And once you've tasted truth, mediocrity becomes poison. You can't go back. And that is your crime, being alive in a world addicted to numbness. So now you understand, this path is not glamorous. It won't be applauded. It will be misunderstood. But it's the only path where you don't sell your soul. Nietzsche wasn't offering philosophy. He was offering transformation. But the cost is everything. Everything false, everything borrowed, everything small, and what you receive in return is not happiness, but clarity, not comfort, but conviction. You will lose the crowd, but you will gain yourself, and that is the foundation of the unbreakable mind. So if you've made it this far, you're not just watching a video. You're becoming something rare, something dangerous to mediocrity, something untouchable by lies, something deeply, unapologetically free. If this spoke to you, then don't keep it to yourself. Leave a comment below. Write the truth you've been afraid to say, the belief that isolates you, the part of you you're ready to reclaim. And if you're ready to go deeper, the next video will take you further down the path. It's not for everyone, but it might be exactly what you've been waiting for. You're not broken, you're just awakening. And yes, it's frightening, but it's also liberating. Stay sharp, stay sovereign. Your mind is your fortress. Guard it well, and I'll see you in the next video.